Mara's earning report is coming out this Wednesday post market. Are you guys ready for it? And is the price going to reflect anything positive or not, right? Where are we at in the current structure? I'm going to get into that in just a moment, guys. But first, I want to go over this article real quick. Just one point. This article says, is Bitcoin heading for a major reversal? And this can highly affect Mara as well, not just with their earnings report, what they announce, looking forward the rest of this year, but Bitcoin is a big factor too, right? And it says right here, breaking above 100,000 resistance could form a bullish reversal, while a failure may lead to intensified selling pressure. So I kind of want to share my opinions with that by going over Bitcoin real quick and what we could be potentially looking at going forward and how this can, of course, affect Mara, right? So guys, remember, everything in this video is my own personal opinion. It is not financial advice. I always stick with my trades until I am proven wrong. So the thing about that 100K level, right, is right over here, right? Basically at this liquidity wall, which I need to update. Is no longer a 24-hour liquidity wall, but it still holds valid to this day. The question is, though, is this truly an indication of a bullish reversal, or are we going to see more downside pressure and how that affects Mara, right? So to get started with Bitcoin first, right, we need to understand the overall structure of this sideways movement that's been happening, right? So we've been moving sideways for a while, and we've kind of seen this up, down momentum building. But here's some bullishness I've noticed on this, and I've said this in many videos before, but I'm just going to repeat myself for those of you that haven't seen those. We've seen a higher high form right here from here, right? So this indicates a overshooting B wave. But normally during overshooting B waves, we tend to see the C wave complete much more aggressively lower than the previous swing low. But instead, we've seen the C wave happen here. We had a nice recovery after, which is fine because maybe this is the price trying to have a little bit of a correction before pulling down more. But instead, we've seen another sideways movement. All three of these dips have maxed out our supportive fib extension areas. Last one being here, and we started moving up higher. So if we truly had bearish momentum building up, I strongly believe we would have seen after this low right here, we would have seen the price have the correction like we've seen, but then start pushing down lower. And this low, excuse me, I'm a little sick, by the way. We could easily seen this low fall much deeper than this. So that's kind of bullish in my opinion. There wasn't enough bearish momentum building up to make a deeper C wave, right? And on top of that, within this structure right here, we've seen, lower lows forming. But then recently, we saw a retest of this high, and then we broke past it, making a higher high from here. But not just that, this low, which was a lower low, is now, as of this moment, a higher low right here forming, right? So we have a higher low from here. So it's very interesting, right? We see a higher high forming and now a higher low. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on, right? Because besides that, when we saw this correction here, back down to the supportive area, we could have easily seen price come up to imbalance a bit more, find resistance and shoot down if there was enough bearish momentum. So really, there's a lot more reasons to be bullish on Bitcoin at these levels than bearish, just because there's no evidence of any aggressive, building up of bearish positions. And not just that, we recently had a jobless claims report and a FOMC meeting. The FOMC meeting was expected to be very neutral and hawkish-ish, kind of. And it was already expected, so the price didn't see anything crazy. But then the jobless claims came out to be slightly worse than expected, which is good if you are long on Bitcoin, for example, right? And then we had a Bybit hack happen. right? And this Bybit hack shouldn't really affect Bitcoin a whole lot because this is a company that was hacked and it doesn't actually change anything in the underlying fundamentals of like supply and demand or anything like that with Bitcoin. So we saw that happen, creating a really good buy opportunity. Now we're sort of stabilizing, continue bullish momentum building because we've seen the RSI like here max out on the bottom. Next time it maxed out, it was at a higher price. It maxed out quite aggressively, but at a higher level. Now we're seeing it also max out once again, slightly higher. There is definitely enough bullish momentum building. And if this price continues to trickle down to the support tomorrow, Monday, market open, and throughout the week, this last week of February, which historically is normally a bullish week, but we're seeing a bullish month, but we're seeing a negative month, which in my opinion is making a strong case for the end of this month and an interesting March coming up soon, right? So Bitcoin is looking very interesting, and I always say this a lot too. If we have enough bullish momentum to reach a fib extension area, we can easily go back into that area more aggressively because if there's enough bullish momentum to hit it, there is enough bullish momentum to soon dive into it a little bit more. And one example, and we've seen this happen a lot in Bitcoin, but one example is here. We had enough to hit it. We had a correction, stabilize. Eventually, we aggressively hit it more and eventually max it out. I don't expect anything very different to happen here. And this will create the momentum we need to finally go up to our next target area, which will create a strong bullish structure to eventually move us higher to our next leg up area, which will also be a new all-time high. So when it comes to Mara and how this affects Mara, is that remember it's a stock and it doesn't trade 24/7 like Bitcoin does. So a lot of the fluctuations sometimes need to wait to the next trading day and usually to the next trading week because it is Sunday at the moment and we have a full trading week this week, no short week. So the question is, right, what can we be expecting with Mara, knowing where Bitcoin is at the current level and understanding Mara's current structure? So basically, in the past, and we saw this very aggressively happen multiple times in mid 2024. I made a lot of videos on it. But every time we reach these supportive fib extensions in Mara, while Bitcoin is in a discounted range, like it currently is, in my opinion, we need to take these areas as like important accumulation areas, right? So with the Bybit hack, this influenced, of course, Mara to fall down aggressively as well because it caused a big drop in Bitcoin. We saw that here. I would not be surprised if we see this price quickly recover back above this long-term supportive ascending trend line that has been holding up for a while. Besides that, I'm using this as a way to represent strong reasons to accumulate this fib extension area. A viewer actually pointed out that a $13 to $14 range on Mara could potentially be the floor. And you know what? I considered that and I said it makes sense. This is based off of the bigger structure here, right? The first big, more significant swing. This one is based off of this swing on the lower part, which is a more extreme measurement of how far down we could potentially go. So from here to here and to here creates this area supporting. You know who you are. You mentioned this to me. This supports your $13 to $14 range, which is valid according to this range, right? Overall, these areas overlap right here. In my opinion, right, if Mara is about to report Q4 2024 earnings here in 2025 Q1, you guys need to understand, and you guys can research this yourself too, but Mara, it costs them about 40 something thousand per Bitcoin to mine. That's where their cost basis is, right? That's their average. So right now, per every Bitcoin Mara has been mining, and you guys know, towards the end of Q4 of last year, Bitcoin's has been rallying up like crazy, and it was up in the 100K before New Year's. So if Mara is mining Bitcoin at these levels in Q4, like they're gonna make some really good profit off of that. Currently, consensus for the earnings report is quite high to reflect that. Hopefully, consensus doesn't ruin what could potentially be a very good quarterly report. At the same time, though, just like for example MSTR, unlike MSTR, Mara has a actual fundamental business model that makes some money. Currently, MSTR's actual underlying business isn't the most profitable. It's kind of been dying off. So they've been aggressively buying Bitcoin, and that's what's making their stock go up a lot. And it's been paying off very well. And I expect them to continue to go higher as Bitcoin goes higher and they accumulate more Bitcoin. But with Mara, it has a similarity. Mara is holding on to a lot of their Bitcoin, so they're increasing their Bitcoin balance sheet. At the same time, Mara is also going into the spot market and buying Bitcoin. So they are aggressively increasing their spreadsheet. This, in my opinion, will soon enough reflect in their stock price, causing them to eventually go up to 20, even $30 per share later into this year. I don't think it will happen next week. I don't think it will happen in March. But I do expect Mara to go up significantly later this year as all this begins to reflect and investors begin to realize what their value really looks like, regardless of them also watering down shares to increase more capital to buy more Bitcoin, just like MSTR. But the power of Bitcoin pumps tends to outweigh the negatives of doing so. So what we have currently, right, is Mara, a company that's aggressively growing, and it was, in my opinion, was soon enough reflect in their stock price, all the stuff they're doing. But at the same time, we have discounted levels. We are in a long-term supportive line that has been broken, and we are in strong accumulation areas right now as they are getting ready to release their earnings. I'm not saying that it's going to pump at earnings. It very much could. But what I am saying is that due to current value levels, in my opinion, it's a great time to accumulate Mara, right? It's a great time to accumulate Mara and working our way up. We have, I strongly believe this descending trend line is going to not hold. It can potentially fluctuate at that area for a moment if it does pump up next week. But we have the 120 moving average to look at potential resistance before we can move up to these imbalance areas, which you guys know if you've been watching for, I love imbalance areas. And I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, soon enough, Mara starts trading up in the low 20s to try to fill in this imbalance area where we have a separation of discounted and premium areas, which I'm on the overall bullish structure that we've been in since the start of the bull market. This area is dividing my premium and discounted half. Besides being in the discounted, very much so, Mara is just a great time to accumulate at these levels. We are below $15 at the moment. And I wouldn't be surprised if we soon enough start testing these imbalance areas as strong support. I do believe there's strong support here, and we can see a channel form within this range until eventually it breaks up higher. I don't believe Mara has much downside. If it does, we have all the way down to like $13 to potentially look at it and potentially accumulate more during this time. But due to Bitcoin's current structure, due to a lot of the Bitcoin adoption and a lot of support Bitcoin is getting from government, states, and companies, and due to the position Mara is putting itself in, which is very good, it's just we're getting ready for the next pump up on Bitcoin very soon, and that's going to highly influence Mara, and especially during their earnings call, which I personally believe is going to be more important than their actual earnings report. Their earnings call, I wouldn't be surprised if they say something like, "We plan to accumulate this much with a 0% note um, issuance," and and we see a lot of growth, and we're working on this stuff, and I don't really be surprised if they say a ton of great things, right? A ton of great things. But at the end of the day, where we currently are is that we are in very strong accumulation, in a very strong accumulation zone at the moment, and it's just getting ready to begin changing the structure and showing how strong this stock really is, in my opinion. Strong buy time for Mar, right? Strong buy. I think it's a great time to accumulate. And you know what? If you don't want to accumulate, just sit back, watch, and let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one, and take care.